Right before his death, Sylvester revealed he had secretly dated 8 different singers in the industry. Some confirmed, others just whispered rumors that refused to die. From his confirmed relationships to the speculation that still haunts R&B legends today. We're about to uncover the secret love life of disco's biggest star. Let's get into it. Before there was RuPaul or Lil Nas X, there was Sylvester James, the gay icon who lived his life unapologetically at a time when being queer came with even more hate and ridicule than today. But what many don't know is the complex relationship he had with another funk legend of his era, Rick James. Sylvester and Rick James were both rising stars in the late 1970s and early 1980s, operating in overlapping musical territories. While Rick James dominated mainstream radio with hits like Super Freak, Sylvester carved out his own kingdom in the disco and gay communities. Both artists created funky, exciting music, but their approaches couldn't have been more different. Rick James cultivated a tough, street-credible image, positioning himself as the authentic voice of funk and R&B. He often spoke about his music having deep roots in soul and funk traditions. Sylvester, on the other hand, embraced glamour and theatricality. His high-pitched voice, flashy outfits, and gender-bending performances created a stark contrast to Rick's hyper-masculine persona. This difference in style and audience created an unspoken tension in the music industry. People constantly compared them, which may have fostered an underlying rivalry. Some industry insiders believed Rick James didn't fully respect Sylvester's success, viewing his own music as more authentic. Meanwhile, Sylvester may have felt overlooked as Rick James achieved greater mainstream success and radio play, despite Sylvester's profound influence on disco and club culture. The competition wasn't just about music, it was about authenticity and acceptance. Rick James represented a more conventional path to success, while Sylvester's journey required breaking barriers as an openly gay black man in a conservative industry. Both struggled with personal demons, including substance abuse, which was common in the fast-paced music world of their era. Sylvester once admitted that his drinking and drug use affected his career during his peak chart success. The disco scene was full of wild parties, and he was deeply embedded in that lifestyle. Similarly, Rick James faced his own well-documented struggles with addiction. Despite their different paths, both artists were fighting for recognition in a competitive industry. While there were no public feuds between them, the music world sensed an underlying rivalry. Critics and fans often debated who was the more talented artist, with some dismissing Sylvester's music as too theatrical, while others hailed him as a visionary genius. This tension reflected broader issues in the music industry about authenticity, sexuality, and commercial success. Rick James achieved mainstream crossover appeal, while Sylvester became an icon for marginalized communities. Both legacies are important, but their contrasting approaches to fame and artistry created a fascinating dynamic that shaped the music landscape of their time. Over the years, fans and music industry insiders have speculated about potential romantic connections between Sylvester and several prominent R&B artists of his era. It's important to note that these are largely rumors and fan theories, rather than confirmed facts, but they speak to the complex web of relationships within the close-knit music community of the 1970s and 1980s. Luther Vandross carried himself with the same careful privacy that defined Sylvester's approach to his personal life. Both vocalists possessed extraordinary talent and an almost supernatural ability to keep their romantic lives out of public view.
Did he struggle with the idea of coming out publicly. Was that something that you talked about at all?
But he wasn't going to come out and say this to the world. And he had a lot of lady fans, and he told me that he just didn't want to upset the world.
Then there is Teddy Pendergrass, who was Philadelphia royalty before his 1982 accident changed everything. Women screamed his name, magazines called him irresistible, and his concerts felt more like religious experiences than musical performances. The rumors connecting him to Sylvester seemed to come from their shared Philadelphia roots and the fact that they moved in similar musical circles. People love connecting dots, especially when both artists commanded such powerful stage presence. But the evidence stops at geography and mutual respect between performers who understood what it meant to own a room. Johnny Gill was still finding his footing in the music world when Sylvester was at his peak. The age gap was significant, and their careers followed different trajectories. Any potential connection would have happened during Gill's early days, when he was learning the business and Sylvester was already an established force. Fan discussions keep his name alive in these conversations, but there's nothing substantial to build on beyond wishful thinking and timeline speculation. Jeffrey Osborne and Alexander O'Neill also get mentioned when people talk about Sylvester's possible romantic connections. Osborne had that smooth, sophisticated sound that made him a fixture on R&B radio, while O'Neill brought a grittier, more passionate energy to his performances. Both were successful artists in their own right, with devoted followings and impressive vocal ranges. Sylvester himself was remarkably open about his sexuality for his time, which makes these whispered connections all the more interesting. Unlike many artists who kept their personal lives completely private, Sylvester was unapologetic about who he was. This openness may have actually made him less likely to engage in secretive relationships with closeted industry peers. The entertainment industry of the 1970s and 1980s was a different world, where many LGBTQ+ artists felt forced to hide their identities. This environment naturally led to speculation and rumors, some true and others completely fabricated. What remains clear is that Sylvester's influence on music and LGBTQ+ visibility was profound, regardless of any rumored connections to other artists. His openness paved the way for future generations of openly gay performers. Sylvester's romantic life was as bold and unapologetic as his music.
All right,
That's my wedding set.
That's your wedding set. All right. Who are you married to?
Rick.
Unlike many artists of his era who hid their sexuality, Sylvester lived openly as a gay man, experiencing both profound love and devastating heartbreak throughout his life. His first significant relationship began in the late 1960s with Lonnie Prince, a strikingly handsome man who their friends considered a perfect match for Sylvester. During this time, Sylvester was already taking enormous risks by dressing in women's clothes, an act that was illegal in California. He would hitchhike while wearing dresses, constantly risking arrest. Their relationship flourished during the tumultuous 1960s, even as Sylvester navigated various jobs and legal troubles, including arrests for shoplifting. In 1970, Sylvester met Michael Lyons, a young white man who would become his first husband. Their relationship was open, allowing both partners to see other people, which was progressive even within gay circles at the time. Despite same-sex marriage being illegal throughout the United States, Sylvester and Michael held a wedding ceremony in the Shakespeare Garden at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. This bold act demonstrated Sylvester's commitment to living authentically, regardless of societal acceptance. After Michael, Sylvester found love with John Maley in 1978, a young white model whose beauty inspired Sylvester to write Can't Forget the Love, featured on his album Too Hot to Sleep.
That I can't forget the love.
However, their romance ended when Maley decided to move to Los Angeles. Despite the breakup, Maley later spoke fondly of Sylvester, calling him a wonderful person and expressing gratitude for their time together. In 1981, Sylvester began dating Michael Rayner, a slim man from Deep River, Connecticut. Unlike his previous partners, Michael maintained his independence and never moved in with Sylvester. This relationship eventually ended when Michael realized he didn't completely love Sylvester, leading to an amicable but painful separation. The following year brought Tom Daniels, a hairdresser with whom Sylvester felt a strong connection. For 6 months, their relationship seemed perfect. However, Tom discovered that Sylvester had been intimate with other men during his travels. This betrayal of trust ended their relationship, leaving Sylvester once again searching for lasting love. The most significant relationship of Sylvester's later life was with Rick Cranmer. This partnership represented mature love for Sylvester, who had learned from his previous relationships. Rick became not just a romantic partner, but a companion who understood and supported Sylvester's career and lifestyle. Tragically, Rick's health began deteriorating in the mid-1980s when he contracted HIV, which progressed to AIDS. Sylvester dedicated himself to caring for Rick, watching helplessly as the man he loved grew weaker. In September 1987, Rick passed away, leaving Sylvester heartbroken and facing his own mortality. Throughout all these relationships, Sylvester maintained his belief in love and authenticity. He once said he was proud to be a role model for gay people, understanding that many struggled to find someone they could relate to.
But you are.
I'm not a drag queen.
Well, you are
I'm
sometimes.
Sylvester.
I know.
His openness about his relationships, both the joyful and painful aspects, helped normalize same-sex love during a time when such visibility was rare and often dangerous. Sylvester James was born in 1947 in Watts, Los Angeles, into a middle-class African-American family. From an early age, music coursed through his veins as he sang in church choirs, developing his love for gospel music. However, the same church that nurtured his musical talents would eventually reject him for being gay, forcing him to seek acceptance elsewhere. This rejection led Sylvester to find his chosen family among cross-dressers and transgender women who called themselves the Discotes. They accepted him unconditionally, providing the love and understanding his biological family and church couldn't offer. This early experience of finding community among marginalized people would shape Sylvester's entire approach to life and art. During the turbulent 1960s, while the civil rights movement raged around them, Sylvester and his friends had their own way of dealing with an unfair world. During the Watts riots, when anger and frustration exploded into chaos, Sylvester and his companions participated in the looting. But instead of stealing money or food, they took wigs, hairspray, and lipstick. This act perfectly encapsulated their priorities: beauty, self-expression, and survival through style. Sylvester worked numerous jobs to survive, each reflecting his determination to maintain his identity regardless of circumstances. He cooked at McDonald's but was fired for refusing to wear a hairnet over his carefully styled hair. He worked as a cashier at an airport parking lot, in hair salons, department stores, and even at a mortuary where he applied makeup to corpses before funerals. Each job was a stepping stone, but none could contain his artistic ambitions. At 22, Sylvester made the pivotal decision to move to San Francisco, a city that promised greater freedom and acceptance. There, he joined the Coquettes, a drag theater group known for their wild, creative performances. While the Coquettes lived communally, sharing everything and frequently using drugs like LSD and marijuana, Sylvester maintained his own sense of style and dignity. The Coquettes were impressed by his powerful singing voice and piano skills, quickly featuring him in their shows. His first performance involved singing the Mickey Mouse Club theme song while wearing a cowgirl skirt, a perfect blend of innocence and subversion that would characterize much of his work. However, Sylvester was different from the other Coquettes. While they embraced chaotic, shocking appearances, he preferred elegant, polished femininity. He wore period dresses and makeup that made him look beautiful rather than merely outrageous. This attention to glamour set him apart and foreshadowed his eventual solo career.
The record company per se did not have any problems with Sylvester being outrageous, but we were dealing with the reactions of people in the outside world who were in a position to make or break him.
His time with the Cockettes taught him valuable lessons about performance and audience connection. When they performed at the Anderson Theater in New York, critics panned the show but praised Sylvester specifically. This recognition made him realize he didn't need the group's chaotic energy to succeed. The breaking point came during their New York performances when Sylvester shocked audiences by apologizing for "this mess I am part of." By the seventh show, he announced his departure, recognizing that his talent deserved a better platform. This early period of Sylvester's life established patterns that would define his career: the search for authentic community, the refusal to compromise his identity for acceptance, and the understanding that sometimes you must leave comfortable situations to reach your full potential. After leaving the Cockettes in 1971, Sylvester embarked on the challenging journey of establishing himself as a solo artist. His first major step was forming the Hot Band in 1972, a decision that would bring both opportunities and significant obstacles. The Hot Band showcased incredible talent, but they faced brutal racism and violence. The group received death threats that made it dangerous for them to perform in certain venues. These threats created constant stress and fear, making it difficult for the band members to focus on their music. Additionally, working with Sylvester proved challenging for some musicians who found his strong personality and perfectionist tendencies difficult to navigate. The combination of external threats and internal tensions eventually became unbearable. Despite their musical potential, the Hot Band decided to disband, leaving Sylvester devastated. He had invested tremendous energy and hope into the project, and its failure felt like a personal defeat. Undeterred, Sylvester signed with Fantasy Records, hoping for a fresh start and professional support. Initially, the relationship seemed promising, but problems soon emerged. Sylvester believed the label was underpaying him and not giving his work the respect and promotion it deserved. These disputes escalated into legal battles, with Sylvester ultimately suing Fantasy Records for what he believed was rightfully his. During this period, Sylvester also ventured into film with Trisha's Wedding, a satirical movie mocking President Nixon's daughter's wedding. He played dual roles, including Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s widow. The film generated controversy, with some viewers finding it humorous while others considered it disrespectful. This project demonstrated Sylvester's willingness to take risks and make political statements through his art. The late 1970s brought both triumph and new challenges as disco music exploded in popularity. Sylvester found his niche in this genre, creating anthems that resonated powerfully with gay communities and dance floors worldwide. His high-pitched voice and theatrical style were perfect for disco's celebratory, liberating energy. However, success in disco came with its own problems. The scene was notorious for its party culture, and Sylvester became deeply involved in the lifestyle of drugs and alcohol that surrounded it. He later admitted that substance abuse affected his career during his peak chart success, sometimes leaving him unfocused when he should have been capitalizing on his popularity. The anti-disco backlash of the late 1970s and early 1980s, known as the "Disco Sucks" movement, presented another obstacle. Many people began rejecting disco music entirely, claiming it wasn't real music and preferring rock and other genres. This cultural shift threatened to end Sylvester's career just as he was reaching his artistic peak. Despite facing discrimination, legal battles, substance abuse issues, and changing musical tastes, Sylvester refused to give up. He adapted his sound, experimented with different styles, and continued performing even when disco fell out of favor. His album, Sell My Soul, recorded after disco's decline, showed his versatility and determination to evolve as an artist. This period of Sylvester's career demonstrated his resilience and commitment to his craft. Even when facing seemingly insurmountable obstacles, he continued creating music and performing, laying the groundwork for his eventual recognition as a pioneering artist who helped shape both disco and gay culture. The mid-1980s marked the beginning of the most challenging period of Sylvester's life, as the AIDS epidemic began decimating the gay community. The disease first struck close to home when his beloved partner, Rick Cranmer, became ill with HIV, which progressed to AIDS. Sylvester dedicated himself to caring for Rick as his health deteriorated rapidly. In an era when AIDS carried enormous stigma and medical understanding was limited, Sylvester's devotion to his partner demonstrated both his capacity for love and his courage in the face of a terrifying, misunderstood disease. He watched helplessly as Rick grew weaker, knowing that there were no effective treatments available. In September 1987, Rick passed away, leaving Sylvester heartbroken and alone. The loss was devastating, but it also forced Sylvester to confront his own mortality. Having been Rick's primary caregiver and intimate partner, he knew he was at high risk for contracting the virus himself. Initially, Sylvester was too frightened to get tested, afraid of confirming what he suspected. He began experiencing symptoms including a persistent cough and general weakness. But he continued working on his music and performing in the Bay Area, though he could no longer handle extensive touring. By 1987, Sylvester finally found the courage to see a doctor who confirmed his worst fears. He had AIDS. The diagnosis required immediate medical intervention, including sinus surgery that hospitalized him temporarily. After returning home, his mother and close friend Tracy became his primary caregivers as his condition gradually worsened. In May 1988, Sylvester was hospitalized again with pneumocystis pneumonia, a lung infection common among AIDS patients. This hospitalization marked a turning point. Upon returning home, he began giving away personal belongings and writing his will, recognizing that his time was limited. Despite his declining health, Sylvester remained committed to his community and activism. In June 1988, he attended San Francisco's Gay Freedom Parade in a wheelchair, too weak to walk but determined to participate. Friend McKenna pushed him through the parade route, while crowds cheered and called his name with love and admiration. Later that year, the Castro Street Fair honored him with an event called A Tribute to Sylvester. Though too ill to attend, he could hear the crowd chanting his name from his bedroom. He also made a surprise visit to Dreamland nightclub, watching dancers from the second-floor balcony while the DJ played his songs. When he waved goodbye, the crowd shouted, "We love you!" Throughout his illness, Sylvester used his platform to educate people about AIDS, particularly in Black communities where misinformation and stigma were rampant. Some people believed AIDS was divine punishment, but Sylvester firmly disagreed. In interviews, he argued that God did not send diseases to hurt people, advocating for love and understanding instead of fear and judgment. His activism during his final months was particularly significant because few public figures were willing to discuss AIDS openly. By speaking out, Sylvester helped reduce stigma and encouraged others to seek testing and treatment. By Thanksgiving 1988, Sylvester could no longer walk and required morphine for pain management. His family gathered for what would be their final holiday together, and on December 16, 1988, he passed away peacefully in his sleep at age 41. Sylvester's death marked the end of an era, but his influence on music, gay rights, and popular culture was just beginning to be understood. Even in his final days, he maintained control over his image and legacy, planning his own funeral with the same attention to detail and flair that characterized his performances. He requested to be dressed in a red kimono for his funeral, with his close friend Yvette Flunder doing his makeup. Sylvester wanted his funeral to be a celebration filled with music, flowers, and love, rather than a somber affair. He specifically asked Tracy to sing at the ceremony, ensuring that his final public appearance would feature the same musical excellence that defined his career. The funeral took place at the Love Center, his church, and the overwhelming response demonstrated the profound impact he had made on countless lives. The venue was packed beyond capacity, with mourners standing because there was no space left to sit. The diverse crowd included fellow performers, activists, fans, and community members whose lives had been touched by his music and advocacy. After the service, Sylvester's body was taken to Inglewood Park Cemetery, where he was buried alongside his family. This final resting place provided a sense of continuity, connecting him to his roots while honoring the extraordinary journey he had taken from Watts to international recognition. In the years following his death, Sylvester's influence became increasingly apparent. His music experienced numerous revivals, with new generations discovering his powerful vocals and innovative approach to disco and soul. Songs like You Make Me Feel Mighty Real became timeless anthems played at dance clubs, pride celebrations, and protest rallies worldwide. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.